Hello, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want to welcome everyone to RVA Rapid Transit's Transit Talk. This is our monthly webinar where we want to give you information regarding news, advocacy, and all things transit for the Richmond, Virginia region. My name is Faith Walker. I'm the Executive Director for RVA Rapid Transit. And if you don't know our work, we are a nonprofit here in the Richmond region. We advocate for frequent and far-reaching public transportation. We want to see more buses in the city of Richmond. We want to see more buses going more places. We want people to have dignified places to wait on the bus, such as shelters and benches. And then also, we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to participate in transit planning and decision making when it comes to public transportation and figuring out ways and strategies that bus riders have the opportunity to do that and the tools to do that. And then last but not least, we've been advocating to keep the bus free fare. And so today I just want to go over some housekeeping. We would ask that you would just stay on mute through the entirety of this event. We ask that you also participate through the chat. So chat away. But if you do have a question so that we can make sure we answer it, please use hashtag Q so that Stephanie and myself can figure out where the questions are. So make sure you do hashtag Q for your question. All right, so that's with that. Let's get started. I want to start off with our news. So our news right now is what's up with the bus. And currently, or a few weeks ago, Plan RVA is doing their long range transportation planning, and we got to participate and they hosted our quarterly Riders and Advocates Connect gathering where we meet people at bus stops, and then we want to have dinner and conversations with them later on. And so Plan RVA hosted this dinner with bus riders, and during that dinner, these bus riders got to participate in the long range transportation plan. And so we had an opportunity just to share with Plan RVA what is really working, some of the great things regarding transportation infrastructure like sidewalks, benches, where it's good and where it's happening. And then also too, where in the region can we see an opportunity for growth? And the great thing about it is the sky was the limit. So these folks here got to tell Plan RVA their dreams, their hopes, and what they would see for the entire region. So thank you to everyone who came, and thank you again to Plan RVA for hosting us. All right, and so in the news, articulated buses are here. So the first two have already arrived. I believe the last two are arriving this week. And this is a picture of articulated buses. A lot of people have been, a lot of people that we've talked to want to see more access when it comes to getting on the bus during busy times on the pulse. And so this will mitigate that. More people will be able to ride up and down the pulse. Public Safety Ambassadors has launched. And so if you go to Downtown Transfer Station Center or all around GRTC's line, these public ambassadors have been trained in de-escalation. They also have been trained in first aid, CPR, Narcan also. And then also they've been riding with vulnerable passengers. So I believe this past, they assisted some young women in riding and using the bus. And so I think that's amazing. GRTC ETI plan is underway. Currently, 4 shelters, 53 benches, and 45 trash cans have been added to more than 75 stops in the region. So thank you for that incredible work, GRTC, and the municipalities for moving that process along. Also, GRTC is calling for feedback for stops that need better lighting. So if you want to participate in this infrastructure plan with more lighting, please fill out a survey. I think Stephanie is going to drop that survey in the link there so that you can give GRTC feedback where better lighting should go. So please make sure you take the time to share that, but also participate on where you think better lighting needs to take place. And then also GRTC is working on their budget. And so if you want to participate or listen in on the budget workshop, you can do that at on YouTube. You can watch it live, I believe at Rider GRTC on their YouTube page. But also this meeting is open to the public, so you can sit in on the meeting as well. And shouts out to the City of Richmond. City of Richmond participated, the Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility. They did a street meal design painted with Martin Luther King middle schoolers and community volunteers. So if you ride down, what is this? Mosby Street, right? So if you ride down Mosby, you can see that right in front of MLK School. So that's pretty awesome. And Stephanie went out to help paint with the students, I believe on Friday or Thursday. And then I went out on Saturday just to clean some things up. So there was a lot of fun to see what the students had done. And shouts out to Barry O'Keefe. This is an amazing artist, a printmaking artist. He dedicated these printmakings to raise money for RVA Rapid Transit. He sold over $1,000 worth of prints. And Stephanie, did you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I'll just share that Barry is an amazing local artist. So I'm gonna put his link to his store in the chat. And like Faith said, 50% of all the money that he receives from the sales of these prints are going right to RVA Rapid Transit. So we are super, super grateful to his work and his vision. And yeah, you should definitely check him out. He's at Studio 23 also. So anytime you go there for an event, you can typically meet him. He's there a lot.
So those prints are definitely cool. I would like to purchase one. And then also we have, he donated some of these prints to go into some raffles. So if you're at any RVA Rapid Transit events for the next few months, you may have an opportunity to join the raffle. So be looking out for that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stephanie. She is going to help us with the next portion, which is our writer's voice portion.
Yes, thank you, Faith. So, welcome to the Rider's Voice section. As you can see on the screen, this is the place where we want to gather y'all's stories, any rider's experience when you were riding that bus, anything that goes on and you know impacts your life, changes your life, or something that could change your life for the better that you see could help improve transit for all of us. We want to hear about it. So you can anytime call this number. This is our hotline. Faith and I monitor this and we transcribe your comments. We bring them to GRTC's board so that they are making sure that they are in touch and in tune with riders so they know what's going on the street level. So that's 804-286-0007. And you can also email info@rvarapidtransit.org and we'll also take your comments that way. So today, since we're doing a special zero fare segment or transit talk, I'm actually going to get Faith to share her screen. And, you know, Faith did put so much effort into this project, and we are so proud of her work. And she worked also, she'll tell you more about this, but with the students at University of Richmond to create this webpage where we actually wanted to take, you know, we go to bus stops, we gather y'all's stories, and we plotted them. The University of Richmond students plotted some of these stories on the transit map. So that's what we're going to look at right now. And for Rider's Voice today, we're going to listen to a couple of these comments.
Can you give me a thumbs up, Stephanie, if you can see the screen?
I can see it.
Okay,
Yep.
great. All right.
Yeah. So if you can scroll down, we're going to hear from, I think, Saya Brown first. And these are all comments, like we said, from across the region, from across the city, specifically about zero fare and the impacts that it has on people. And you can just hear, you know, comment after comment. There's a lot of overlap, but everybody also has their own original story as to how it's helping them. And so first we'll hear from Saya Brown.
Okay.
So I can't hear it yet.
Okay.
Hmm. I
It
don't know. I
it
can't hear you.
plays, yeah, it plays and it stops.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I think we should do. I'm going to go into the presentation. What if you pull up the comments from Kindle, and we'll just pull from that page, and then you can use your background. And that should work. The sound should work on that. And then I'll break to come back to you, Stephanie. Are you with me?
All right. Yep. Let's come back. I'll drop the link to this website in the chat so you all can have a little bit of time and check out that map on your own anyway. All right.
All right. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and get into my presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Stephanie, for doing the amazing work of gathering those writers' comments, which is so important to us. And so give me a second. I'm going to share my screen again. So I had the incredible opportunity to participate in the University of Richmond's Community and Partner Fellowship. And the idea is for community members, executive directors in the nonprofit workforce who are doing incredible work in the city to use the university's resources to solve a problem or issue. Um, we need to engage with the students, engage with the faculty, but also use what are the tools that the university has to solve an issue or help continue the work that we're currently doing. I pitched to the university Zero Fair, and it was I was invited in to create this project. And so with the help of two students, Michelle Quash and Kendall Hart, we did some deep dive and research on the impact of Zero Fare. And so all I want to do today is just share with you what I found in regards to how Zero Fare is impacting folks in the city of Richmond. I also want to give good news that GRTC has extended Zero Fare through 2026. So GRTC will be covering fares from their own budget. And so through 2026, and then also too, even if fares were to come back, it will take 2 years for fares to come back, okay? And so I'll go deeper into that, but I wanted to make that clear and make that announcement. All right, so Freedom Move, the role of Zero Fare advancing health and justice in Richmond. So let's dive right on in. All right, Zero Fare, so fair fight for the future. Now, back when FAIR started, this basically removed people having to dig in their pockets for $1.50 and $1.75. Now, when fares were here, you had to have exactly $1.50 and $1.75. You could not put a $5 bill in that. That I've done that before, and all my whole $5 bill is gone. But that's a barrier. You have to have that exact change, but sometimes folks did not have that income. Riders gained reliable access to work and school and healthcare. Now, this fair fight, it really transformed our system. We've seen record number of service expansions, improved frequency, and what's possible when we prioritize access. And I think our region has really prioritized access. We have prioritized equity when it comes to keeping the bus free. Now, we have a choice. Now, in 1905, Richmond streetcar started an inclusive, then it's segregated redlining look over. So I wanted to also take a look at what we have now, but then also look back into our history. Where did this all started, and why I believe that Zero Fare is a current justice. It's a form of transportation justice. It's a form of economic justice in its own time. And so let's dive right into that. But before I do that, let's talk about how the pandemic changed everything, okay? So in 2020, if you don't know, GRTC made the bus free along with agencies actually around the world to cut down on the spread of COVID-19. And what began as a public health move quickly revealed a deeper benefits that zero fare made transportation and transit fair. And now, in 2021, GRTC secured an $8 million state grant to explore permanent zero fare with local matching required. And so I think around that time, there was a pull from advocacy. There was a recognition from GRTC that, hey, wow, we have ridership as high as ever before, or we're moving into the direction with higher ridership. We know that zero fare is adding more ridership and adding more transportation dollars as far as our state funding. Let's figure out a way to keep it moving. And so they did secure that grant with with the DRPT. And this was a tapered grant, and I'm going to go deeper into it. Now, in order for GRTC to get that grant, they had to secure other sponsors or other supporters. That was the City of Richmond, and that was VCU who pledged. With those pledges, the DRPT said now the grant is awarded. And also, I think at that time, there was a lot of commitment to keep the bus free. There was a lot of commitment from the mayor, then LeVar Stoney. But in 2023, Richmond's budget came out and that $1 million was not there. Okay. Now, GRTC did have funds in their reserves to cover it, but we're at a point right now where if we keep dipping into reserves, how long can that last, right? And so at that time, GRTC stepped up. GRTC covered that that funding gap, but also at that time there was a lot of COVID relief funds as well. And so VCU continued to support GRTC during that time. Now, where are we now? Fast forward. Now, why zero fare matters and why the stakes are high. More than 50% of GRTC riders make under $25,000. Zero fare is a lifeline and it's not a luxury. Also in 2019, GRTC collected 5.3 million in fares, and right now we need 6.8 million to keep the rides free. Now, what I will say is a lot of people ask me, well, why don't we subsidize this? Why don't people who make more money pay more? Or, you know, I get this a lot. And so one of the things that was recognized back in 2021 is the cost to collect fares. Collecting fares is close to $2 million. And if GRTC is collecting 5.3 back in 2019, some of the most vulnerable Richmonders who physically collected their money, we were asking them to do that, and they're making under $25,000. And it almost costing half of what we're collecting, right? So this system of even subsidized fares is not valuable to our region, and it doesn't make sense. And so zero fare has been sustained through federal grants and creative budgeting. But again, those COVID relief fundings is drying up. And so I believe that it's a regional responsibility. That's why I have this whole region there. As you can see, buses right now are running all over the region, right? We now have microtransit, we now have fixed routes, we now have express routes. And this incredible service, everyone in this entire region, whether you are a business, whether you are a municipality, have all benefited from citizens, employees, employers being able to access the bus for free. And so I think it's a call to action and a regional responsibility, not just any particular party. All right, so let's go back to streetcars. We were the first to have the streetcar, right? We were the first in the entire world to have the electric streetcar right here in Richmond, Virginia, which I'm very proud of that history. And I think right now, Richmond is at a crossroad where we are also at an opportunity in the, there are some cities who are fare free, but we have an opportunity to set some records still by creating a sustainable fare free system forever. We're at that crossroad. And so what I wanted to do was just highlight, again, there was an injustice back then. In 1888, Richmond did launch their first streetcar system in the U.S., expanding access to jobs, education, and civil life for all. And then an early public transportation offered freedom, opportunity. Again, the same thing that happened then with the electric streetcar is happening now. People were able to access jobs, have more opportunities, especially for Black Richmonders. Now, in 1904, there was a turning point. The Virginia Passenger and Power imposed streetcar segregation, and Black riders were subject to second-class status, and they could not ride. They had to ride in the back of the streetcar. Now, there was some resistance, of course, and there was a boycott. Now, because of this boycott, the VPP, the Virginia Passenger and Power Company, they went bankrupt, okay? And the reason why I want to share this is because I think we're at a similar crossroad today. Today, Richmond faces a parallel choice. Zero fare transit is a proven benefit that has expanded mobility and economic opportunity for thousands of Richmonders, and particularly Black Richmonders who make up 70% of GRTC's ridership. Just as VPP had a choice in 1904 to sustain mobility for all or limited through segregation, our city right now, Richmond, Virginia, now has a choice to sustain and expand zero fare transit or allow the region to slide backwards into deepened inequities. Zero fare transit isn't just about affordability. It directly challenges the lingering effects of segregation by ensuring everyone, regardless of race or income, has equal access to transportation. Many of today's riders are essential workers, students, seniors who depend on GRTC daily necessities, choosing to find zero fare transit and to build a more just and equitable future. So this map here is a map of the streetcar lines that we've done. And this represents, the red lines represents the current GRTC system. And then the sort of bold gray lines represent our historic streetcars. So as you can see, it does overlap, but also there is some coverage that is missing. Like there is some lines that don't overlap. And I found that pretty interesting. All right, and so I want to highlight social vulnerability. And this comes from the collaborative work of us looking back into the past. And this is in relationship with Michelle Quash, the senior, did her capstone. And together at the university, she discovered how redlining and social vulnerability and health access comes together. And so I'll just read this passage to you so you can understand what the history of redlining, but also this findings that I'm going to go into next. So redlining, for those who don't know, is a discriminatory practice dating back in the 1930s that systematically graded neighborhoods based on perceived investment risk. So a grade A neighborhood were deemed most desirable, while grade D or F neighborhoods, often home to Black and low-income residents, were labeled hazardous, leading to decades of disinvestments. And when we mean disinvestments, mean infrastructure, investments in transit. And so that we can go down the list when it comes to disinvestment. Now, according to Quash's analysis, this figure to the left of your screen, the neighborhoods historically given a D grade closely align with the areas of high social vulnerability today. So while A grade neighborhoods correspond with low social vulnerability today. So if you look at this map, it will show you that areas that were redlined back in the 1930s are still experiencing a high vulnerability rate, okay? And we're going to go into deeply what that means. Now, social vulnerability, or SVI, it was previously defined by the CDC. Now, this information has been removed because of this administration. But what it does is it measures key data or communities' ability to prepare for or respond to and recover from internal stresses like natural disasters, economic downturns, or public health crisis. The alignment between historically redlined areas and present-day high social vulnerability underscores how systemic inequities persist across generations, and also the limited opportunities and resources. So we're going to just dive deeply into this. As you can see over here, we're looking at the high social vulnerability is in this darker purple, and it still correlates today. A large part of Eastern Richmond is under that high social vulnerability, and then it spills sort of over into Eastern Henrico County. And then also, if we take a look at the lower part of when, we did have some rezoning, or Richmond spread out a little bit more after redlining. And you can see that the high vulnerability area is here in the south side as well, upwards to correlation to the lower part of North Chesterfield here. Okay. All right. So let's go down here. So if you look at the key findings of her report, 50% of GRTC's bus stops are in high social vulnerability areas. And that, I think that's a great thing, right? But we need a little bit more, right? So if we know that half of GRTC buses are serving high social vulnerability areas, this is giving folks more access, but I think we should increase it to 75. So we got to get more infrastructure and bus running around. And then only 15% are in low social vulnerability areas. Okay. Now, transit is a lifeline where disinvestment persists, and that is so true. Now, 41% of hospitals are in high social vulnerability areas, but I also want to highlight that only 25% of urgent care centers are in high vulnerability areas. So that's a low amount of, so the great thing about it is we have a high number of hospitals in social vulnerability areas, but a lot of times the cost of an emergency room visit is higher than the cost of urgent care. So we definitely need more access to urgent care facilities in these areas. And of course, zero fare now allows folks to access all of these a little bit better. All right, so let's dive into some GRTC demographics. And yeah, so let's dive into some demographics. Now, I want to thank GRTC for giving me this data. Every 3 years, GRTC is required by the Federal Transit Association or Administration, wherever that acronym is, to do a survey. Okay. And GRTC hosted this survey about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago in 2023. And they interviewed over 3,000 people at bus stops, at transfer stations, on the bus. And so this is basically who rides the bus and their demographics. So let's dive into it. All right, and this is some of the things that they found. So I wanted to highlight this, where riders live and transit demand by zip code. So Virginia has 59 zip codes, but also, so right now, excuse me, out of 101 zip codes, GRTC service is operating in 59 of them. That's pretty impressive, GRTC. And then also, this allows us to understand where the need is the most. So the area code 23223, and remember we looked at the social vulnerability area on that map, how it's spread out from the eastern part of the city of Richmond into Henrico. So 23223 is the eastern part of Henrico, where I live currently. And as you can see, that zip code is getting the most ridership. So at around 107 rides, monthly trips from that. And then Chesterfield and Powelltown recorded 42 trips. So I think this is collecting deeper into Chesterfield and to Powelltown, but also too, I think what we need to realize too, that this area has less access to public transportation or lesser routes, but then also too, it's spread out a little bit. So the disparities here. So medium trip counts is 878 per month, and half of the zips had fewer than 13,000 trips. And a small number of zip codes generate the majority of GRTC's ridership. And so if you look right here, you can see what zip codes have the highest ridership. And we're looking at 23224, and we're looking at 23223. Okay. Stephanie, do you know where 23224 is? Is that yours? Is that
I believe 23224 is also Southside.
Southside? Yeah,
Yeah.
23234.
Somebody shout out if that's not
234.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody put out. Yeah, but I think
Someone's
that
right here.
think that may be Southside. But even if you look at the map, you can see here where the darker
Yeah.
purple is. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to live on Bainbridge Street on South Side, and now it's coming back.
Yep,
It was
it's in
two
Southside. And so you
23224.
see this south of Richmond is that more pinkish area. And you see there's a lot of pink going into here. So I found that interesting.
Yeah,
All right.
and real quick, just to add from your from what you were just saying about zip codes and what Shannon was putting in the chat from Southside Relief, their maps, we know that the south side of Richmond, there's actually a 20-year lower life expectancy for Southside residents than for Richmonders in other areas,
Wow.
like the West End, yeah, and stuff like that. So it's pretty stark when you put it like that.
Yeah. And then I think Greg just mentioned that it's in the Swansboro area. Yeah. So he said he lives in the area. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And so this actually really makes sense too. That I'm so happy that our region is now recognizing that we need pulse access or 10 to 15 minute service into the south side of Richmond, and that correlates with these numbers. All right, so let's go into race and ethnicity by mode. As you can see, the pulse represents 59% African American, and then 77% of folks who use public transportation are African American with the local routes. Okay. And as you can see, this is the backbone with limited transportation options for people who just don't have any other option. And then also, as you can see, the pulse is more racially mixed here. And then 49% of express bus route are white. Okay. And so we can see, a half divide here between that two, but there's a clear, stark difference with local bus routes. Age. I think this is pretty interesting because if you look at this age range, if we look at the age range 55 and up, and even upwards to 65 and up, this is the age range for our seniors. And I think overall, the ages are quite spread out. But if we start to look at seniors, seniors start to get on fixed incomes. And Stephanie and I know you can attest, you speak to a lot of seniors who are on fixed incomes, and this tends to become their primary mode. And so as you can see, over 20% of folks who use local bus routes are 55 and up. And then look at the express routes. Look how many folks who are using express routes. 45% of people who are 55 and up are using express routes. And so I want to name that. And I think that's pretty interesting, especially when it comes to zero fare and access. All right, so let's look at household incomes. Let's see, 19% of bus riders earn 75 or more on the pulse. And I think, you know, the pulse that even speaks to who can afford to live up and down Broad Street, right? It's a higher income bracket. As we've seen, the cost of living up and down Broad Street has increased. And so that will correlate to who can afford to live up and down Broad Street. But also 60% of local bus riders earn less than 30,000. And the last time I checked, the poverty line for the state of Virginia was 29,000. So over half, more than half of our bus riders are making below the poverty line. All right, so access to a car and motor vehicle. So if you cannot ride the bus, or you let's just dive into like who can afford to even have a car right now if you're making under $29,000. And I'll go into how much it is costing to own a vehicle. But 85% of local bus riders do not have access to a personal vehicle. So that is huge. 85% of folks do not have access to a car. Okay. And so transit is equals basically their only option at this point. And this numbers clearly says that. And then for express riders, I think transit could be a choice. But 89% have a driver's license and 75% have a vehicle. Okay. And I think express bus routes too are convenient. It's less traffic. People can relax, especially if you have to drive a longer distance. So I see a lot of people using these express routes, especially the one to Petersburg, because it's just such a long distance. And then driver's license, or even if you didn't have a car, maybe you can borrow a car. But let's see, I think our region has taken a shift. I think we've seen a decline even in young people getting their licenses. I think my generation was probably one of the last generations that, hey, you got that was like a rite of passage to adulthood. But I think there has been a decline in young people getting licenses and driving because the cost of owning and operating a vehicle is so expensive. All righty. And I wanted to gender by mode. We have some split down the middle here. A lot of females are using the express bus routes. I found that interesting. But I wanted to highlight folks who are full-time. Over 50% of local bus riders are full-time workers. So that means that over 50% of full-time, they're working full-time, still making $29,000 an hour. Okay, I mean, excuse me, a year. This is the stark reality of our region and the economic mobility and the need and stress for zero fare. Okay. And so I just wanted to name that. And even 57% of folks are full-time using the Pulse. And then look at the working students. I think we can even correlate 14% of working students. That's a larger amount than local routes. So I'm thinking we can attest that to maybe VCU or Virginia Union students using the Pulse more to get back and forth to work and school. Okay. Now, in the event that GRTC was not an option, this is what people said that they would do. So I found it interesting that most people said that they would use a ride share. And this also goes into the fact of access and making sure we have transit access, because as we know that the more transit is accessible, the less likely people would spend money on Uber or Lyft. And as you can imagine, Ubers and Lyfts are getting more and more expensive. And so this cuts down people's spending on these ride shares and services. And then folks said that they would walk. A short percentage said that they would bike or scooter. And I think it's interesting that a lot of people said they just would not make the trip at all if the access to GRTC wasn't available. All right, this is really crucial. And what folks were asked, what this represents here is transfers frequency by income. So right here, we have income brackets, again, 30,000 all the way up to 75,000. And so folks who made 30,000 were asked, how many times on the routes that you're taking right now do you transfer? And as we know, the amount of times you transfer also increases the cost of how much you pay. And what I found interesting is that if you transfer one time, it looks like folks who are making under $30,000 are transferring or have to transfer more. And so this is cost. This is zero fare transit equals fair justice. And so we can see that it protects those making multiple trips just to get to work in healthcare and home. And so as you can see, the impact of free fare when it comes to transfer, especially for the most vulnerable folks, they tend to transfer more. All right, prior usage before March of 2020, free fare implementation. So this is really getting to the impact of free fares. And so who rode the bus before free fare? So 75% already were riding the local bus. 68% the express bus, and then 59% there. And then, but look, 41% did not ride the Pulse prior to fares being free. So that's a large increase of people using the Pulse now because the implementation of zero fare. Okay. And then 21%. And so this is getting people to change their habits. And look at express routes. Wow. Express routes have really increased because of free fare, but 32% of people said that they did not ride prior to March 2020. Now they use the bus. And so this is definitely adding to sustainability. All right, impact of free fares on decisions to start using GRTC. And so let's see, 50% started riding because it was free. And local riders were most influenced. So 54% said free fares got them on board. So that's a huge. And this just shows the impact of free fares on frequency of riding GRTC among previous riders, okay? And they were asked, do you ride? I ride more frequently now because of the Pulse, because it's free. And again, this goes back into transfers. How many errands am I going to run today if I had to pay, right? And so I think people are able to run more errands without the cost burden of transfers or extra fares, all right? And then it was a split decision, have them ride the same amount. But I would say that I think more people are riding the bus now or using the transit more frequently because it's free. All right, so let me breeze through this a little bit because I wanted to open it up a little bit for you guys. We asked 100 bus riders, and Stephanie will share this information. I'm just going to breeze through really quick for the sake of time. But you can review this entire report, and we'll drop the link in there where you can just take your time and look at these. But we asked 100 bus riders on our own. So these are Michelle and Kendall. We went to downtown transfer station. We did some online surveys, and we also went to 4th and Broad Street to ask folks, like, what's their impact of free fares? And so I think I'll highlight that people said that they spent more money on food, and we know the rising cost of food right now is incredible. And so what did you use that money on now? So if you, the money that you would have spent on fares, what are you spending that money most on now? And they said food and then rent. And would you ride the bus if fares came back? A lot of them said yes, they would. Especially, and then 11% said no, they wouldn't ride the bus. It was free. And then, of course, it depends on the price. So a large portion of people are like, it depends on how much it costs. How often do you ride? A lot of people said every day. And then also, do you use the bus more now because it's free? And then they said, yes, I use the 83 riders out of 100 said, yes, I use the bus more often because it's free. All right. And then zero fares have made it easier for me to go to work, get to doctor's appointments, but also, again, this food access keeps popping up. Okay. All right. And we all know that the car ownership is incredibly out of reach. AAA estimates that to own and operate a gas car, per year is about $10,000. And so if you're making $29,000 a year or less than that, wow, you don't have anything left. So that's why a lot of people are on the bus, period, right now, because the capacity of owning a car is out of reach. Now, I just wanted to also highlight that ridership. If you look at back in 2019, GRTC was averaging 700 rides monthly. Now, GRTC is averaging just in 2024, they reached historic where they were averaging 1 million rides per month. Okay, so we can clearly see that with the implementation of zero fare and all the expansions that we've had, more people are using public transportation since pre-pandemic numbers. Okay. And so I just want to recognize that, yes, fares are going to be covered by GRTC through FY 2026. As you can see, I want to recognize VCU's leadership. VCU was the only organization that contributed to zero fare for so long, and that needs to be recognized and honored for that. VCU has not committed to funding beyond June 2025. I know some students have requested some demands to administration as far as sustainability needs to continue zero fare, and I really hope they do. And so I think right now there is a need, a regional support and need for a collective approach in covering zero fare. I wanted to name that also. I've listed the top 20 employers in the region, and why should these top employers should invest in zero fare? Because it directly helps their workforce benefits. Employers like VCU Health, HCA, Bon Secours, and VCU all benefit from employees' ability to get to work reliable. And also, some already reimburse staff for transit passes before fares implemented. And so it improves workforce retention, but also better access for clients and patients. And I think it's a smart business strategy for these organizations and companies to be investing in zero fare. Investing in zero fare saves on transit subsidies for employees, but also contributes to economic mobility, workforce stability, and healthier communities. And a lot of these organizations have already made these statements as priority for them. So what I've done is I've listed some of these organizations within our region who have made sustainability statements, and I believe that zero fare is the answer. So as for example, Altria's motto is to increase the diversity of our organization and leaders team while building an inclusive and equitable culture, advance racial, social, economic equity, and help our communities thrive. So just as an example, zero fare is the answer. Zero fare absolutely does that. So I employ all of these organizations and colleges to support zero fare. And so here's the solution. GRTC has a transit access partnership. This transit action, it's basically where you can make donations that are tax deductible through their 501c3 ride finders. So anyone can do this, businesses, organizations, individuals can invest in that. And then also 100% of GRTC's advertising revenue goes towards zero fare. And so this is a call to action. I'm calling an action to elected officials. It's time to champion TAP funding. You know, there's been rhetoric or just talk right now that this person should pay, this person shouldn't pay. I think as elected officials, we have voted for elected officials to solve challenges and problems, right? And so I'm encouraging elected officials to use their influence to promote TAP. And your leadership is key to maintaining access to critical resources for our most vulnerable communities. And for employers, I urge businesses to invest in zero fare as part of their corporate responsibility efforts. And then transit writers. Again, Stephanie just shared with you how you can share your story and use your voice. I encourage you to share your story, advocate at local meetings, share your experiences to help build the momentum needed to protect and grow this service. And then environmentalists, I encourage you to stand up with us and support this because it is sustainable, as we can see that more people are riding the bus than ever before. And then also everyday people, if you're on the call right now, maybe you don't ride the bus that often. Maybe you're curious about today, but your participation matters too. Whether you rely on public transportation or not, your support can help build this movement. So what I'm going to do right now is, Stephanie, if you'll help me open it up to some questions. I don't know if we had any there, but I'm going to take a look to see if we had any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that presentation, Faith. We just have some interesting conversations going on in the chat.
Okay, good.
We actually have someone here from Tucson, Arizona,
Wow.
who's also doing transit advocacy work out there, and said that likewise to Richmond area, they've also been free fare since 2020 for 5 years. And they're also kind of at that point of needing to make it permanent, but not sure yet how it's going to happen for their region. So pretty
Well, shouts
interesting.
out to Tucson. I mean, we're in this fight together, and yeah, I'd love to connect with you.
And I'm going to put the link, Laura, and for everyone, the link to this presentation. You're asking for a PDF. Is the Canva link okay for you, or do you need it to be in PDF form?
Well, what we can do is everyone who came today, we can, if you registered, we have your email. I can email you the PDF.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we have, so Suzanne from Tucson also shared a Google Drive folder with some resources for everyone. So everybody can check that out. There's, I guess Suzanne put the PDF of our report in there.
Yeah. And then
So
so
thank
sorry
you
we
so
didn't get
much.
to, thank you. I appreciate that. And also we didn't get a chance to hear the recordings and stories. You can go to that website yourself. And listen to those writers' comments and feedback. Okay.
Maria, thank you so much for coming. Thanks
And
for all of your
Maria is definitely a champion in transportation. So I'm like super impressed to see her today.
Awesome.
She worked with the last administration in regards to transit on the national level. So that's impressive that she's here today. All right, so let's close on out. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much, Greg. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming and having the conversation. Please share this information. Oh, she said, Faith, you're my big hero. Oh, I love you. Thank you. Love to meet you, love to connect, and it's good to see and hear that other people are doing some of the same work out there, right? Stephanie, can you see my screen?
I can't yet. No, but I think you're about to tell people about what we've got going on.
Yeah, so
coming
I'm
up,
gonna tell
right?
you about what we got going on.
So I'm gonna add some more links to the chat.
All right, so this is what we got going on before we close out. I want to thank everyone for joining us. As you know, this is Earth Week, right? And so our Better Bus Stop program, again, we want to have people to have dignified places to wait. So for Earth Week, we're encouraging people to clean up bus stops. And so clean a stop, choose a stop. You don't have to be an adopter. Pick up trash, beautify it. We've had some people cut down debris, brush, clean windows, and then fill out the adopter's diary of what you've done. And then once you've done that, please tag us in any photos. Now, once you enter your with our adopter's diary, you will be entered into a raffle. And we have some wonderful raffles. We actually have one of those prints that we're raffling off. We have passes to the YMCA. We also have a $50 gift card to Sugar Shack Donuts. And so the great thing about it is Plan RVA just did theirs today. As you can see, they collected over 200 pieces. Shouts out to Plan RVA, and they did that right on Hall Street today. They posted. So we appreciate that. And then this is the adopter's diary. So make sure you fill out that link. And this asks you how many pieces of trash you collected. So make sure you're counting, and then you record that. And then once you record that and enter this form, you'll be entered into the raffle. All right, we also have Mobility University. This is our 5-week training course where we teach bus riders how to self-advocate. The first class is taking place on April 30th. We encourage everyone to participate if you have not. This is a great opportunity for you to learn the history, dive deeper into history of transit, understand how transit funding works, understand who are the power players, who makes this transit decision, so that you can start to advocate for lines in your community, for more shelters. And so we give you the tools, we give you the roadmap on how to do that for yourself. So please join. It's absolutely free. It's every Wednesday, starting April 30th for 5 Wednesdays, and we have a graduation afterwards. All right, so with that, thank you so much. Ride the bus, become an adopter, share your story, and then help us out, donate. We cannot do this work without the support from viewers like you. So support us and share this. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.